We have been programmed in the early part of our lives to have ropes around our legs to tie us down, and we believe we are limited because we have these ropes. I said, where do the ropes come from? I said, well, look at the development of the brain. Now, here's an important part. When you put wires on a person's head and you read what is called EEG, you're reading brain function and brain activity, okay? And I go, really cool. And as an adult, you have a whole range of different vibrational levels. From the lowest level, delta, which is sleeping. The next higher level of vibration is called theta, which is when you're waking up in the morning and you're half awake and half asleep. Twilight reverie, it's called. And then you start to ramp up the vibration a little higher as you're waking up, and you get into the next level called alpha, which is calm consciousness. And by the time you put the key in the ignition and you're driving off to work, you ramp up to the next higher level called beta, which is focused consciousness. Adults have the whole range of activity, but guess what? Kids don't. Kids start off at the lowest level, and then over time ramp up to a higher level, and then to a higher level. The first year or so of a child's life, it's in delta, the lowest vibration. Partially because it spends most of its time sleeping, but also because a child at this age has a nervous system that can take information in, but doesn't have a nervous system that can coordinate a response out. So infants can hear and understand everything you're talking about, but guess what? They have no motor coordination to express themselves, to respond to you, and that's why they're so frustrated. That's why they cry a lot. They were thinking, if I could just tell you what I'm thinking, but they can't. But the next important part is from first year up, and especially through about age 7, a child's brain is predominantly in theta. Theta is associated with imagination. Yeah, sure. That's why kids between 2 and 7 can mix the imaginary world and the real world together because they're operating at that vibrational level of imagination. But it's something more important. But I'll come back to that in a second. By the time the child reaches 7 and starts getting older, it ramps up to the next level, alpha, consciousness. It is now expressing calm consciousness. And then around 12 years of age, it ramps up to the next higher level, beta, which is schoolroom focus consciousness. This is why education changes before 12 and after 12. A child before 12 cannot do that focus consciousness that a child after 12 can do. And I said, yeah, but okay, now what's interesting about this? If you haven't seen it, I really want you to look at it real carefully. Why? Consciousness is alpha. Oh yeah? Then when did consciousness begin? After 6. Then what happened before 6? It's called the programmable state for a very simple reason. Very simple reason. Theta is hypnosis. For the first 6 years of your life, everything you observe is directly downloaded into the subconscious as programs. It doesn't go through consciousness. It's not filtered by belief. It's strictly recorded exactly as seen. This is not an accident. Nature didn't do this to punish you. Nature did this to help you. Why? Well, it can only give you so much information through genetics. The rest of it you have to learn. Yeah, but how can you learn if your conscious mind's thinking, you're a kid, and you're a parent trying to tell the kid, here's 1,000 rules you need to learn today about being a part of society. A kid that after first rule says, why? Why? And all of a sudden you realize you're never going to get to rule 2. So nature eliminates the problem. Nature says, good. You don't have to have the child worry about it. Everything you say is going to be downloaded, and it becomes a program. So a child observes its mother, its father, its family, its community, its culture, and observes them. The observations go straight down into the subconscious and become behavioral programs. And all of a sudden you start saying, oh my God, this is where we get enculturated. How do I live in a culture? How do I know how to speak to a policeman separate than a kid? Because I saw my father talk to a policeman totally different than when he talked to a kid. And I started to see how my father's behaviors were. And the consequence was I downloaded my father's behavior. And all of a sudden I have these in my subconscious mind. And here's the critical part that I really want parents to understand. There's a tendency for parents to try to goad their children like a coach. They say, you can get out there and work harder. Come on, go out there. You can strive. You can work harder. How do we say that to a kid? Well, we say, oh, that's not good enough. I say, who do you think you are? You don't deserve that. You're not that smart. And I'm not meaning to do that to punish my child. I'm thinking if I say those things, maybe my child will make a better effort. So we're out there like coaches, as parents, telling our kids things, and I say, well, what does that mean? I said, but the child doesn't have consciousness. It's just recording what you just said. And all of a sudden you realize, this is where we get our self-identity. Who am I? It's not controlled by who I believe I am. I'm controlled by what other people tell me who I am. You're a good kid. You're a bad kid. You're not that smart. And all of a sudden you start to realize the number of negative things that parents say without realizing that the child's just recording everything they say. I say, why is that important? Because once that program's in the subconscious, it's always there. And all of a sudden you start to say, oh my goodness, what did I program my child with? Self-love? Self-esteem? Absolutely not. The largest portion of all of us in this world lack self-love. Why? Because we were criticized. And when you're criticized as a child and that's recorded, then you become critical of yourself. And if you're critical of yourself, how can you love yourself? All of a sudden, we lost who we are. We lost our love. We become programmed by these beliefs. You know, well, that's cool. That's in the subconscious mind. I go, well, here's the problem. This is the problem. The secret mind, how your unconscious shapes your reality. Why? As it says, according to cognitive neuroscientists, we are conscious of only about 5% of our cognitive activity, meaning only 5% of the time are you controlling your life with your conscious mind. I say, yeah, but why is that relevant? The conscious mind has your wishes and desires in it. 5% of the day, you're moving toward what you want. What happens the other 95% of the day? Your mind's thinking. It's not paying attention. When it's not paying attention, you default in the subconscious. Like, yeah, but when I get in the subconscious, what am I playing? Other people's behaviors. People's behaviors that have sabotaged me all the way up to this time. And I don't see it. And I tell audiences, let me give you an insight to this because you're all familiar with it at some level. I'm going to suggest that you had a friend, a close friend as you were growing up somewhere, and you knew your friend's behavior really, really, really well. You knew your friend, and you happen to know your friend's parent. And one day it dawns on you, your friend has some of the same behavior as their parent. So you casually volunteer, you go, hey, you know, Bill, you're just like your dad. Back away from Bill. Bill's going to go ballistic, like, how can you compare me to my dad? You're all familiar with it, and why there's two profound points, same story, two profound points. Number one, everyone else can see that Bill behaves like his dad. The only one who doesn't see it is Bill. Profound point number two, we are all Bill. Every one of us, 95% of the day, we are playing other people's programs. But why don't we notice it? And the answer is simple. Why are you using the subconscious program? Because your conscious mind's not paying attention. So when you're playing your subconscious programs, you don't see it. And this is where the problem comes from. We all have the greatest wishes and desires to make our lives into something, not realizing you're only operating 5% of the time with those desires. If you were programmed as one of those kids that threw a tantrum in the store, you wanted a toy and your dad wanted you to get out of the store and you were crying, your dad said, shut up, you don't deserve that. And you recorded that. Then I can say, well, what happens? You're 40 or 50 years old now. And I say, the moment your mind's not paying attention, what programs are going to play? The subconscious program. What program is that? I do not deserve. What's the function of the mind? To take the program and turn it into reality. So if I have a program I do not deserve, what do you think the invisible behavior is going to do? It's going to shoot me in the foot every minute to make sure I do not deserve. Now, it's really